Hey guys, in this lesson we would understand how to factor perfect squares and difference of squares. Let's first understand what are perfect squares. Perfect squares are the trinomials that follow the formula a plus b whole square. We have discussed this formula in one of the previous videos. Let's understand it with an example. How do we recognize if a trinomial is a perfect square is? We check the first term and we check the last term first. If the first full term is a square of something, for example, 4x squared is a square of 2x and 9 is a square of 3, then we check the middle term. The middle term should be equal to 2 times the square root of the first term. When I say the square root of the first term means this thing that is inside the bracket, because the square of 2x gives us a 4x square. So square root of 4x square is called 2x. So basically what we should do is multiply 2 with this 2x, just the term inside the bracket, not the square, and multiply it further with this thing, that is just the 3. When we multiply all of this, we should be able to get back our middle term, that is bx. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 3 is 12. And there is one x there, and here we go, we get our middle term back. So if we have a trinomial in this form where the first and the last term are going to have their square roots and the middle term is a product of their square roots and 2, then we can apply the formula a square plus 2 times a times b plus b square. Now this is what we have here is a square plus 2 times, so this is just a, what is inside the square, times b plus b square. So if a trinomial can be written in this form, then to factor that trinomial, we just have to take the a value and we have to take the b value and we have to take the sign of the middle term and put a whole square around it. Whole square means a plus b is written 2 times. So it's a plus b times a plus b. We can see here this is the standard form and this is the factored form. So we have been able to change the standard form to factored form just by using this formula instead of going through the steps of factoring trinomial. But this formula is only applicable if we can write on the question in the form of this. And the specific question is called the perfect square. Now how do we use this formula to get an answer for this particular question itself? We know the question was 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. We just need the a value. A is going to be the term whose square is going to give us a 4x squared, and that term is 2x. So we would put in place of a 2x. Middle term sign comes here, and b is the term that we get from this last value. So it's the term whose square is going to give us 9, and that term is 3. So we put that term here and we put a whole square around it, which is nothing but 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. And this is how we change 4x squared plus 12x plus 9 to a factored form, 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3. Let's take up another example here. If we have a question as x squared plus 12x plus 36, we first have to verify if this trinomial is a perfect square or not. If it is a perfect square, then only we can apply the formula a plus b whole square to it. And how do we figure that out is, so we would think about a term whose square is going to give us x squared, and that term is x itself. Then we'll think about a term whose square is going to give us a 36, and that is 6. Then we would see if the product of 2 and this term is able to give us the middle term of the trinomial, that is 12x. And we notice here 2 times x is 2x times 6 is 12x. So we are able to get back the middle term. If all of these things hold true, that means this question can be written in the form of a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. That can be described as a plus b whole square. So since we notice here is a squared plus 2ab plus b square, we can write this down as a plus b whole square. A is x plus b is 6 whole square The next step is the final step to it, and that is just writing this in two different brackets. So the answer for x squared plus 12x plus 36 is x plus 6 times x plus 6. And this is how we change a perfect square trinomial to factored form. Let's take up one question with a negative sign. Here we have 64 minus 16r plus r square. Always remember the question has to be written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So the one with the square variable should go first, the one with power 1 variable should be in the middle, and the number without a variable should be at the end. So we would first rearrange this question. So we would be writing r square minus 16r plus 64. There was no sign in front of 64, so that is a plus sign. That's what we put here. So this is plus r square that comes here. Minus 16r comes down as is because it's bx. It's right in the middle. Now this is the right form of question. So we would now compare this with the formula, and the formula is a square minus 2ab plus b square. Whenever the middle term has a negative sign, then the formula is a square minus 2ab plus b square. If the middle term has a positive sign, then the formula is a square plus 2ab plus b square. Now in this case, how do we solve the question is, we know r square is a square of r. We know 64 is a square of 8. And the middle term should be minus 2 times a is this value and b is this term or this value. The sign comes down as is. We multiply 2 and 8, we get a 16r. So if you're able to get back the middle term by multiplying 2ab, then that means this formula is applicable to it. So the next step is we can write on this formula in the form a minus b whole square. So a comes down, b comes down, minus sign comes from the middle term, and the whole thing will be squared. Here also we'll do the same thing. A is r, b is 8, minus comes from the middle term, whole thing is squared. We can just write it down 2 times because the whole thing is squared, means the whole thing is supposed to be written 2 times. Let's take one last question for perfect squares. Just for the sake of practice, we have 9x squared minus 24x plus 16. 9x squared can be written as a square of term 3x. 16 can be written as a square of term 4. And this middle term can be written as minus 2 times 3x times 4. When we multiply this, 2 times 3 is 6 times 4 is 24x. Since we're able to get back the middle term by applying 2 times a times b, that means a square minus 2ab plus b square formula is applicable to this question. And when the formula is applicable, that means the answer is going to be written as a minus b whole square or a minus b in simplified form. Therefore, we can write this as 3x minus 4 whole square or 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4 in simplified terms. So the answer for this trinomial is going to be 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4. And this is how we factor a trinomial that is a perfect square. Now let's talk about difference of squares. If we have a question in the form of 2 terms, for example x squared minus 16, and both the terms are squares of something and there is a negative sign in between, then how do we do factoring on that particular question is, because this type of question is called difference of squares. Difference means there is a minus sign in between, and square means each of the term is a square of something. So here the formula that is going to be applicable is a square minus b square. So if a question can be written as square of the first term is x squared minus square of a second term, because it's 16 here. 16 is a square of 4, so 16 can be written as 4 square. Now if a question can be written as a square minus b square, the answer in factored form is a minus b a plus b. So x squared minus 4 square will be x minus 4 x plus 4 in factored form. Let's take up another question for the sake of practice. We have 4a square minus 121. We know 4a square can be written as a square of 2a. We know 121 can be written as a square of 11. And there is a negative sign in between. So this question fulfills the definition of difference of squares. There is a minus sign in between. First term is a perfect square of something. Second term is a perfect square of something. So we can apply the formula a square minus b square to it. And the result in factored form that we get from this formula is a minus b, a plus b. A is 2a here. B is 11, so it's 2a minus 11, 2a plus 11. Let's summarize everything. So if a question is in the form of a perfect square, that is a square plus 2ab plus b square, it can be factored and written as a plus b whole square. That can be simplified by writing a plus b times a plus b. If a question can be written as, and the question we are talking about is a trinomial, can be written in the form of a square minus 2ab plus b square, then its factored form will be a minus b whole square or a minus b times a minus b in simplified form. These two are examples of perfect squares. The only difference is these middle term signs. If the middle term sign is positive, the result will be positive. If the middle term sign is negative, the result will be negative. If a question is given in two terms, that can be written as a square minus b square, then the result is a minus b, a plus b. So these are called the factors of the perfect squares. This is called a factor of difference of squares.